also film you.
Oh yeah. Hi everybody, I'm Egill Sæbjörnsson, and I'm gonna talk about it I'm gonna start from when I was about 21-year-old, and I was in Iceland, and I didn't really know what I was gonna do as an artist. I knew about all the painters and all of the stuff that had already happened in art, and I was just like, what am I gonna do, And do you hear me in the back? It's okay? So, when I was 20 years old, I enrolled on the Icelandic Art Academy. And when I was about 21-year-old, I saw an exhibition at the Living Art Museum, this institution here, which is in Reykjavik, Iceland, on video. And I realized that video art was already an accepted form then, and that all the artists that had taken part forming it about 20 to 30 years prior to that, so like in the 70s or even the 60s, they were already accepted and acclaimed artists. So I thought, okay, so what can I do? Because I want to be, they had already kind of occupied that space, and I wanted it to stand out. We all want to stand out somehow, I guess. And I wanted it to do something new. So, and then, if you were, so I had been looking around and wondering what it could be, and I decided to bet on this. It was at that time it was kind of a new thing, but I understood it was like the next in line in technology, because it had been kind of like painting and all of that, and then photography, and then it had been video art, and then computers. But computers were like, we didn't even have smartphones. The internet wasn't even there, etc. So I was kind of like, it was like a cold bat. I was just trying to understand where will be something interesting in the future. And with some people at the Icelandic Art Academy, which was then called the College of Arts and Crafts, we went for it, and we did something. We organized the first Photoshop course at the Art Academy. And there it started. I had already been playing computer games, like on Sinclair back in the 80s and Commodore, and spent much time on my parents' black and green screen computer, playing games. And I found this. This is actually me and my brother in 1992, playing a game that you might recognize. It was Pac-Man. And I'm gonna come later to computer game engines and creating imaginary worlds and all of that stuff. And I think that all of this stuff influenced me. And there is a screen from a flight simulator where you could fly. You could pretend you were flying, but it was only lines. And at some point, my dad has told this story many times, that I called out of the bedroom I'm lost. I can't find the way back. But it was just like a tiny screen with some green lines, and it was kind of funny. So those games were some sort of virtual worlds, I guess, that you could walk around in or fly around in and do things in. So after my first year at the Art Academy in Iceland, I wanted to see the world, because Iceland was very isolated. It was You know, like nobody had gone there. Like if I saw a person with a map on the street 100 meters away, I would run to them and ask them like, oh, can I help you? Where are you going? And now everything is drowning in people visiting Iceland. This is completely changed. But I saw an announcement down in the lobby at the art school that said Erasmus student. And I said, like, that's my chance, you know. They give me some money, I can go to a school somewhere else. And then I was like, where shall I go? And I had no idea. I'd kind of basically not traveled around the world at all. And I ended up picking Paris. And there was one school in Paris that took like you could be a free mover, so that it was not organized. You had to organize everything yourself. And it was the only school in Paris that did that. And it is this University Paris 8 in Saint-Denis. And it took me a while to find even the arts department, because it was in French, fine arts is art plastique. And I really walked around and I was like, why are they making so much art with plastic? And then somebody explained it to me. And they also happen to have all these courses like this, so art plastique that you see there, and art et technologie de l'image. It means art and the technologies of the image. And I started to basically enroll onto this, and I noticed when I went to their homepage that they've been kind of operating this since 1984, and they still are. And so I could study 3D, making 3D, and it took a whole day to make one ball and one cube. You know, that really took hours. It was so rudimentary at the time. And this is a program that was very interesting that they had, which is called Director. And there you could like take images and sound and mix it together. So if you like pressed a button or something, then something would happen. But I wanted to show you that my interest in mixing mediums was already happening before, but it had not taken on shape. And here is like, I found this is also 1992. This is me in my earliest installation from before I actually went to the Art Academy, mixing sound and space and stuff and together. And this set, this box is empty, full of darkness. This box is empty, full of darkness in Icelandic. And so to be able to walk inside the artwork somehow was important. Very serious young man. I understand the world through my emotions was written on the text. And then there's this guitar that looks like the scream from Munch, and then I had put my own music and some sounds in the background. When I came to Paris, I got to know something called hypertext, which is this new concept with the computers that you can actually like read a text that is not like in a book that is just in a line, chapter after chapter, but that you can jump from sections and kind of draw your own conclusions. And actually, the teachers that were teaching this, they had already been in this exhibition in '85 called Les Immatériaux, or the Immaterials, which was an interesting exhibition at the Centre Pompidou. I had no idea. I kind of accidentally landed with people that were doing these things. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just experimenting. And this is probably my first interactive work. I don't have it in function here, but you could press these. It's called the chocolate plate, and you could press buttons, and there was a sound that changed accordingly to kind of in which direction you pushed. Like this image that you see that just gets more and more distorted because you like digitally you kind of distorting it. So the sounds were distorting in different ways. And I'm going over my story so that in the end we're gonna come to when I do the generative works, etc. But there's like a long history that leads up to it. And so in the 90s, the interest in virtual reality kicked in, and it was a big hype. And I did a lot of works there where like realities were mixing, where I was like thinking about the relationship. So here is, for example, a photographic work with where I photographed Gene Kelly in the movie An American in Paris, then got it printed, cut out all these dolls and placed them it was just my parents' kitchen table, and I was still living there, and I could take photographs of Gene Kelly as if he had been able to enter my kitchen table. My kitchen table was like the little universe that he could dance in around. And it continued like that. I was obsessed with virtual reality. And when I graduated from the art school, I refused to make a physical work and decided to present my works on a homepage, and to kind of underline the physicality of the internet. There was a little car, I don't know if you can see it, and you would push a button and then the car would drive over a road and then go to a work, and then you could choose to go to other work. So it was like driving on a map and seeing like little animations and photographic works. And people could also sit in a sofa and drink coffee or have tea, as a kind of a rebellion against the white kind of established, white cube space, where you stand on a hard floor and have to look and be very intelligent. So here you see a map of with this program, I started to work with something that is called QuickTime Virtual Reality, where you could take a lot of photographs around you and then stitch them together and make long panoramas, like you see on the bottom. And then you put it into a program, and then you can kind of look around. It's the same as when you're on Google Maps and you walk around a city and you can like look around. They did that maybe like 10 years later. This is like 97 or something. And I made works that were presented like that on computer screens. And I was just trying to figure out how to work with computers in arts. And this is my first solo exhibition in Iceland that had this stone printed out, and on the floor you see an old tube monitor, and it had that stone, like all the stills put together, so it became like an animation. And for me, because it was not a still image, it had already, just by doing this, it had also become kind of like three-dimensional. It had become like a spatial object. And so like the QuickTime Virtual Reality, where you could look around, it was like you had finally entered the photograph. Or like when I was younger, I always wanted it to be able to enter the painting and look around in it. I also made some works where I rendered my own body virtual. I made some dance pieces like this one. So maybe because I was not a professional dancer, I could make some sort of a dance by using animation. And I was always into music, so I'm playing drums, improvising. But that was also kind of like about virtual reality and virtual space. And then I moved to Berlin in 1999, and then I also, this is some panoramas from another QuickTime virtual reality piece called Urban Issue, and this is on, do you recognize it, Józefina? It's not the Rosenthaler Platz, it's like Rosa-Luxemburg-Platz.
Yes.
It's crossing Torstraße and the Schönhauser Allee, or Alte Schönhauser Straße. This is not here anymore. There's like, you know, the round building and and all of that. So yeah, I continued making these things, and then I also just to show you that I was also doing all kinds of other things, and things are always mixing. Nothing is so straight and linear. There I am. I released an album in the year 2000. So I spent a year kind of just being a musician, doing conscious and stuff. And this is in Iceland it's in the year 2000. And here I am also presenting music on CDs on a table, because my idea was that if you pick a song, put it in a CD player, listen to it on headphones, you're already inside like a world. So that every song was kind of like a universe for me. Just like if you pay.
This on the picture is actually a device that was used to listen to music. You know, like you would open it and you would insert this inside the clothes and press the button and the music was coming. Just in case you would ever encounter something like that.
Exactly, and in the back is an old Macintosh computer showing the QuickTime virtual reality works. My first work, kind of mixing video projection and physicality, merging something digital with physical, is this piece. It's called Skin og Lag, or Skin and a Bad Sheet. And it's me standing behind a bad sheet with a video projection, and I looked at the animation on a little screen. So, and then I was like acting like what was going on. And somehow the sound is missing here, but tree. Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? Oh, house. Oh, bird. Oh. Ah! Ooh, what's happening? Oh, yeah. What? Huh? Thinking. Oh, yeah. Oh. So yeah, it was kind of like the body became non-physical and could change into anything and be anything, and yeah, and then this was is a piece called Ping Pong Dance. Real buckets on the floor, but the ping pong balls are projected, and like the shadow really makes it feel like it's three-dimensional. It was projected onto the floor as well, so it kind of, and the balls go into the buckets and they go out of the buckets, so it's kind of like virtual. It's like mixing digital dimension with physical dimension. And it's like this game, you know, where you would like clap and sing and dance. So they're like, it's called ping pong dance. And this is another piece which is like a classic still life, which could have been like a painting of these objects. But it has a projection onto it. So I recorded like the movement of a lamp around it, and then it's skewing, and then there's this like these colors going over it. I think this is like, there we are like 2008 or 9. I kept on developing these methods. So it's a physical shelf, and you can see it and you walk around it, but the projection is kind of like, it's kind of mapped on top of it. And here is another piece where you see 4, it's called 5 boxes, and you see 4 boxes. And the 5th one is kind of in the air. And the click sound is actually a real solenoid that is inside the box that hits the box, dunk, and makes a real sound. So the sounds are a little bit different depending on the size of the boxes. And there you see the inner life of the box. So it's also like a joke on minimalist art. That kind of look like minimalistic, but then they open up and there's like this banana flying around and like a wallpaper. I was so tired of minimalist art at the time. I wanted to have some more action. Oh yeah, and then here's like a larger piece.
Boob. Boob. Why do you call boob boob?
Do you hear it?
Because you're round. Boob. Aha. Boop. 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 Who's the most important stone in here? Boop. 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 So it's you? Boop. Isn't that a bit selfish, Boop? Boop? No? Boop. 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 Is boop all you can say? Boop.
So these are, it's also again like a universe that you can walk into with all these stones in the space, and then like with faces projected onto them.
There's nothing as beautiful in this universe as you, Rósalinda.
No worries, Joris. I'm not going anywhere.
You never know. What if one day there was an avalanche?
And?
A big mudslide would come down from a mountain and we'd get hurled away, split from each other, and I would never see you again. It would be too late to express my love to you.
What are the odds?
Well, it's pretty sure that one day we won't be together. Once we weren't, and so in the future we might not be.
But we have been here in this place for about 400,000 years.
And?
That's a long time already, Joris.
That's nothing in the life of the universe, Rósalinda.
And?
I love the way you sit there, so stable and massive.
Thank you, Joris.
I think you're the best looking stone I've ever seen.
Really? But you told me that yesterday, too.
Well, every day is a new day for me. Everything is new every time the sun rises.
So it's like different scenes with different characters, but it's like I'm showing you this because it's also like a little bit like a universe that you can go into, and this is the lonely stone in the middle, and I'll just skip over it a little bit. The family.
Come on, little girl, you're a big girl.
And then they also stop being with faces and they start to be more abstract things. And Yeah, the space is like, it's a little bit, it's larger than this room, and it has like, the stones are all spread around, and it has 3 projectors projecting onto them. And then they sing together in the end. So that's it's also a little bit like objects performing. So like later, I called it also like non-human forces performing. And this is a piece in the backyard of Willem de Kooning studio out on Long Island, with triple projections onto these gigantic rocks, and I'm just like making them having a concert together with all the insects that are in the forest behind, and putting some lights on them, and so they're kind of performing. I guess stones don't speak English or French or Japanese or Chinese or whatever, but they have their own language. Yeah, and then we come to like the first, this is the first really generative piece that I made. So it's these boxes with solenoids that hit under each one of those metal stone shelves. And this is 2011 or 12. And I wanted it to underline that artworks are beings on their own, and that art is not just objects that we make, but that it's more like a source that we join and make things with. And we make art, and art makes us in return. So by making the work itself like generative, it kind of underlined its own authority. So these balls are projected, and the sounds are real because there's a hammer that hits under these different sized stone shelves, and they never repeat because it's generative. It's made in the Unity 3D, the game engine. And so these, you can stand there and look at it, and you will never see any repetition in how the actual how the balls fall. So another variation with these huge bathroom tiles, because they have a little bit of a different sound. And when you see as if the ball is kind of falling out of the image, it's because I'm projecting a little bit of black on the outside, and then it kind of just goes over that. Yeah. And here you see a little bit the technology on the inside. There's a computer and an Arduino board and all kinds of things that are needed to control all and this is a solenoid inside the that then hits up. And here I made another version where all the cables are on the outside of the wall. Before you couldn't see the cables because they went through the wall. But that's sometimes complicated, especially if a collector buys it, it's like too complicated to drill through somebody's wall. So all these practical things. So inside the computer game engine there is and the exact copy of these boxes, so it knows where the balls are falling, and because it's projected onto the physical duplicate of it, it kind of looks like it's working. And this is 2013. Another generative work where you see this is a real box on the wall, and the rotating sticks are actual sticks with motors, stepper motors behind that are like rotating. But the balls that are projected, they are projected, but they react to the balls. And the piece is called Polite People in the Street, because they're always bumping into each other. And another piece in the same series called Lion Inside the Fridge. So this just keeps rotating in different ways and you never see it repeat. But there's a sound that comes every time that a ball hits something. So it's kind of like a painting that is alive, moving, doing things. And the third one, so you hear these kind of like orchestral sounds every time that the stick hits the ball. And the title refers to if there was a donkey inside a music store and was always bumping into all the musical instruments, making all these sounds. And 2014 I made this generative work, a sculpture outside an institution in Germany. So you see this.
150 meters to Viapoint.
You see this this sculpture that looks like something you had maybe seen 100 times before, but then at night it gets a video projection onto it, and you see. The surface of it is constantly changing. So both the surface and the shadow underneath it is projected from this mast. It goes high up and then projects onto it, and it is never ever repeating. So you can stand there, even me and my main programmer Sasha, we joke about it sometimes. We stand and look at it and we have no idea where it's all coming from. It has some images, a bank of images, but the way it changes it is a mystery to us. So these were kind of like my first like generative artworks, but you can see like all these other experiments lead to it. And I remember when I was coming out of art school, I had no idea what I was going to do, and it was so difficult. And but fortunately, I just made things that I was passionate for, like you were talking about before. And then later, I understood the connection between them, and it started to make a sense to me. So difficult to start, you know. Just have to keep on going with some faith. So here you see some of the technical drawings. There's the mast projecting onto the concrete slab that has this half ball on the outside. And the same year I made another piece called the Cascade with a projection onto this onto the roof of a museum. And you see, because I don't really have a video of it, but these lines are coming down, projected onto the roof of the museum, and then sometimes it breaks, and then a door opens, and this girl comes out with a hammer and walks around on the roof and like hammers onto it to fix the piece, and then goes back in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is just some video from my phone. Yeah, and then there's a little video of like from the opening of it, where a musician, Chili Gonzalez, was playing, improvising to the lines. But usually it runs every night. And it's not generative, but it rotates in which order the shorter movies are projected. And then you can see you can see the projection on a screen somewhere. There you see. So this is the actual projection. And then I also made I made this character become. I actually wanted it to do a AR work where you could walk around the city and find the girl somewhere doing things around town. But this is an animation. This is the street that is in front of the museum. So it's the kind of like how we can see our everyday environment as a playground for something to happen. I think that the world is the biggest computer, bigger than any computer that we have. This is the local ice cream store. Goes and buys some ice cream and so on. I'm just going to skip through this, but it's just to show a little bit. And this is one of my early generative pieces. It's a sculpture, but when you go closer, you see do you see the drops? So they are projected. And they are also generative. So if you have this sculpture in your living room, the drops are never repeating. They always run down in a different way. This is a sketch for it. Crying stone. It was made in a time of crisis in my life where I just wanted it to cry all the time. And I just wanted it to put tears onto all my artworks. It's another video of it. And I'm going to show you also one more piece, generative piece. This is in Prague at the National Gallery. So it's basically just a staircase, but how can you make something playful with it? So I made a little program with all these things falling down and yeah, people love to interact with it. And here's another piece, also generative. These things are, it's called Flying Waters. And this is projected on the outside of König Gallery in Berlin with Therme. It's like a thermal bath company. And these flying waters, they never repeat. But this is supposed to be a part of this project. You see, this is like a dome with a fountain in the middle, and the flying waters are flying around here, but there will be like real water there as well. So I wanted to mix real water with digital water. And oh yeah, this is from an exhibition that was made between Kunstwerke in Berlin. It's as an arts institution and the Living Art Museum. Same institution that I showed you in the beginning of this whole thing. And this is basically was about virtuality as object species. Object species is a term that I came up with to show that because humans always put them kind of in first place of everything, but you can maybe go kind of more on an equal level even with things that we call non-living and objects. And but these are, yeah, see, these are, and then we also showed some of these early virtual reality works, because this was talking about virtuality as an object species. And virtuality is very interesting because it predates computers, possibly because like even now when we're talking with each other, there's like some sort of or later when we start talking, there's a mutual understanding somewhere between us that is kind of seems to be virtual. And even if you read a book, you delve into a universe that is like as much virtual as virtual reality in computers. And when you look at a painting, you also go into a world. So virtuality is is a very old phenomenon, possibly. I think that quantum physics are also showing that. And so this is, so I have imaginary friends, Ug and Bugar. They're 36 meters tall, and their favorite food is humans. Out of them, tourists they're like excellent, like what they love the most to eat. And these are their giant iPhones. And so I created an AR filter where people could look like them. There's some people testing this out, and this is just like sketches because we had to build this iPhone, and this is the mesh for the nose and to kind of be able to put it onto the face, and this is a common friend of ours, Peaches from Berlin. She's a musician, and she plays the older sister of Uge Buger, because they always get all the fame, you know. So she was kind of on the third iPhone as a video.
Hi, I am Gap. You don't know me? You don't know who I am? I am Ug and Buger's older sister. I am the older sister. I am the impetus for them making art. I taught them everything. I taught them how to draw. I taught them how to appreciate art. I taught them everything they know about art. I gave them their first crayon. I said, Ug, here's a red crayon. Draw my nose. And he did. And he loved it. And I gave Booger a red crayon and I said, Booger. I said, Booger, draw my red nose. And he did. And he loved it. He loved it. I taught them to appreciate art. You know, I've been living in New York for the last 200 years, so I know what's up. So you need to know me. You need to know me. Gup. Remember that name. You could say, what's up, Gup? You need to know me, the older sister.
Great performance. And here you see, so these are my characters that I did for the Icelandic Pavilion. You saw that, Jake, right? Angel, did you see that? No, I didn't see that. So again, it's like these 36-meter tall trolls that they decided not to eat me, and they started to kind of get curious into what it is to make art, and they started to make art. And then I had to help them to make all these things, like these jewelries that are in the room. And this is in the National Gallery in Iceland, and there's a lot of works by other artists that have also worked with trolls. So I formatted made a chatbot speaking Icelandic that was at that time also kind of on the verge of being possible, where they talk about the other artists' works about trolls.
Búka, hvernig finnst þér tröllin í verkum Ásgríms?
Can you read the text down here? It's the same text on both sides.
Þau eru yndisleg og ég sé sjálfan mig í þeim. En það sem mest grípur mig hversu nákvæmt Ásgrímur gat túlka kvíða og ótta sem við tröll upplifum. Sérstaklega kvíðan sem við höfum fyrir dagsljósi. Hvernig finnst þér verk hans? Þau eru í raun heillandi. Ég sé í þeim sjálfan mig, eðlilega órólegan og óþæginn. Ég sérstaklega hrifinn af hvernig Ásgrímur lét okkur líkjast steinum. Það minnir mig á það hvernig við tröll breytumst í stein í dagsljósi. Það mjög hrifandi hvernig hann gat mælt með okkur á sinn hátt.
So there are works by these artists that they're talking about. They're like in the room, you know, around and everywhere.
Það vekur upp tilfinningar sem eru oft erfiðar að orða. Það líka eitthvað við
artists that were working like 80 years ago or something like that are long gone.
Við hvernig Ásgrímur málaði tröllin sem minnir mig á múminafólk eftir Tove Jansson. Það eitthvað við þessa tvö sem tengir þau saman í huga mínum. Það eins og bæði höfundarnir skilji okkur tröll á eitthvað dýftarlegt hátt. Já, það eitthvað í því sem þú segir.
This was also about, I love kind of to make universes, and I don't know, do you know The Moments by Tove Jansson? So I think that she is absolutely underestimated as an artist, because they've always seen this as stories for like children books or something, but I just see it as art, like her whole world making as art that should just as well be art exhibitions and stuff.
Ég hef alltaf séð eitthvað svipað milli tröllana sem Ásgrímur málaði og múmínverana sem Tove Jansson skrifaði. Þau eru bæði eðlilega óþæg, örlítið hrædd og mjög einskisgóð.
Okay, so scroll through a few works more and then we're done, okay? So this is a work that is still in process, so you see a little bit in my studio as well. It's called the Boombox, where we're mixing all kinds of technologies together. So there's a real object in the back, and then there's a projection onto the whole wall and onto this box, and then you see like these lasers. So it's kind of like a giant boombox that is like a personality that is performing. And the idea is also that when you're in the room, it never repeats. It's just like ongoing. It's like watching the clouds on the sky. How are we in time, Józefina? It's all good? All good? I think it's about 5 to 10 minutes left. This is Timur working, just so you see a little bit the studio. And there's a lot of music underneath, so that I'm able to combine my passion for music and arts together somehow. We're just testing all kinds of stuff. Sounds and effects and animations. And yeah, we were using AI a lot to make a lot of this content. Maybe just do a simple drawing of a get-up of the boombox, and then have the AI creating new stuff. This is AI generated first the image, and then also the image changed into a moving image. The boombox is sometimes a car, sometimes a cat, sometimes a boombox. It changes from what it is. Okay.
Here we are on the first floor.
And then this is my actual exhibition. These are the two last videos that I want to show you. This is from my exhibition that is up now in Copenhagen, like the one of the floors. And here we see some of the latest generative video sculptures.
The exhibition, My Friend the Art, and I'm Egill Sæbjörnsson, walking you through the exhibition. So what we see are sculptures that you think that you might have seen 1,000 times, and you might think, oh, that's boring, I've seen that. Like classic 20th century sculptures. But as you walk in and you go closer, you might start to see some details happening and evolving. And here you see small flaps opening and closing onto a sculpture called Macho Sculpture of the 80s. And what we are actually watching is a real sculpture made out of plaster, but with a video projection that is generative, projecting new details that never repeat, because you can stand there and watch it and it's always going to be something new. Here is the crying macho sculpture from the 90s, from 2014. It's one of my earlier generative works. And here we see kind of a classic sculpture, but upon closer look, a different life is revealed, where we see drops, possibly tears, running down the sides of the sculpture. This work was made in a time of crisis in my life, and I felt like I just wanted it to put tears onto everything, because all I wanted it to do was cry. And here we see the macho sculpture of the 80s with the little flaps. So all the shadows and the light that we see is projected with two projectors from each side of the sculpture. And in the back we see a sculpture called Macho Sculpture of the 50s. Yeah, here we see the flaps opening and closing. And beside it is the newest piece in the lower floor of the exhibition. It's called Big Rock, and it's also a massive plaster sculpture, and from far away it looks like a big rock, but if you come closer you see all this life on it, and it's also a generative work, and it has a little society of beetles and plants as if they were growing and living on this rock or a sculpture. And in a way it's a nice collision between a rock and a sculpture. So maybe some rock was the first sculpture, who knows? Somewhere all these things must come from. And also in my book Stones According to Egill Sæbjörnsson from 2012, I make an attempt to show that life actually comes from magma, or at least it did not just happen by magic somewhere in the ocean. So this is kind of like a nice illustration of that. I think it happened without me kind of planning it. But yeah, those little beetles, they just crawl around and appear and disappear, and new plants come and go. You watch it over a longer time, never repeating. There are also other things that appear, such as cars, little cars, and things that we don't connect with nature, but that are, of course, a direct ascendant from lava as well, just through the hands of humans. And so everything on this planet is this little wonder that has grown out of this planet. And yeah, in a way this sculpture represents the planet the way it is. And there we see a little quote: "We come from magma, not single cells. If we see ourselves as the descendants of lava rather than descendants of single-celled organisms, we can relate our family's ties to an inanimate matter. By erasing the line between living and dead materials, we create a new scope on the universe we live in." And by doing that, we can also see that art is a species that we coexist with. And artworks are not only objects that we make, but more force that we are in a relationship with, just like we are in relationship with everything else in this universe. Here we see the breathing surface of this macho sculpture from the 50s. By putting the soft-colored carpet onto the floor of this hall, and by putting the colored carpet and curtains on the floor above, we were underlining, me and the curator Silke Karl Martinesen, were underlining the importance of feeling engulfed and welcomed by this creature, the art, or as I call it in this exhibition, my friend, the art.
Voila.
Questions, people? What do you want to ask
I guess I was kind of interested throughout your works and like when you're talking about your pieces, when you're specifically talking about your generative works, you keep repeating like that the work never repeats and you can stand there and like it'll never be quite the same. And I was wondering what about that is so attractive to you? And like what about that like pulls you in?
I started putting it in because I was trying to formulate my thoughts about art not being something passive that we make and just hang on the wall and that we look at and that we use. But I was wondering about the idea of art being an independent, equally strong force to us that actually talks back to us. And so we have been interacting with colors and lines and shapes and things like that since before we were in the caves, and animals do it, they make nests and stuff like that. It's like something in the world. And this conversation has also formed who we are. Like it's not only that we make art, but the art is making us. So I'm kind of trying to show that it has kind of like it's not just like I'm gonna make this artwork and it's about this and it's that and I'm gonna hang it on the wall and it has this meaning. It never works, kind of like it just has its own kind of thing that everyone that comes to it sees something different out of it. It's like a mini universe. Every artwork is a mini universe. So by having this element of it like literally not repeating, it kind of underlines that statement or thought that I was trying to understand myself and to formulate.
I think it's so incredible that you've been working on this idea of generative art so long before it's been in vogue, but I'm wondering now that it seems like every institution and artist is like expected to react to AI as like a phenomenon, or I guess what we now understand is AI. So I'm curious how you are thinking about integrating or not integrating like LLMs or generative AI into your artistic practice.
Did you say HoloLens? No, what did you say?
LLMs.
LLMs, yeah.
Large language models.
Oh, yeah, okay. I want to touch more upon all of these features, but as you might have noticed, I'm always with one foot in the technology and the other foot in other things, because I think those things are never separated, and it's also to kind of to give it that it has a content and a context. I was in the beginning always afraid of using this technology that my artworks would just be about that. I was trying to figure out how is it actually touching upon something that matters. And were you asking like how I see AI or how I? No.
Either, yeah, or if you plan on using it or not in your future artworks.
Yeah, I have been using it a little bit, but not as a generative tool. It's quite difficult to tame it, but it's like fast getting easier. And I just see AI as a very, very strong tool, but as a tool. And there have been many tools that have appeared over a long time. Like we use a hammer to hit a nail into the wall. It's a tool. Language to communicate. It's a tool. It's quite old. Our legs to move around. It's a tool. Two atoms approaching each other and one going apart with that movement, there's already a tool embedded. Like the world is intrinsic into the world, the tool. AI is an interesting tool, and I think that, there's a lot of ethical questions around it. There have been a lot of ethical questions about a lot of tools that have appeared throughout history. And we need to face them. But it's an interesting tool, and I absolutely intend to work with it.
More questions? Think of your project and think what you want to ask.
I was thinking about the picture you showed at the very beginning of this very serious art student.
Yes.
And not to read too much into one photo, but I think it's very common when you're at the beginning of your career that you kind of only allow yourself to deal with very serious things and have serious thoughts. One of the things I really admire about your work, I think this is true of all great artists, but it's very transparent. But you make it very transparent. It's the role of play and humor and laughing, which is such an important emotion to include. It can't only be serious things. It's really, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what that process was like for you. I think very few artists would have the courage to go to Venice Biennale and put a huge troll that was laughing, met 3 trolls that were laughing, also turned into a bar, and but I think that's part of what made that one of the, one of the most memorable pavilions at least in the last 15 or so years that
Thank you.
There. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what that process has been like for you, of having the courage maybe to allow that to be so available to your audience.
Thank you. When I started reading the theory of Albert Einstein, the theory of relativeness, or what do you call it? Relativity. I was impressed that the most complicated theory written to time is written in a language that anyone can understand. I don't like complicated art texts. I think art is about us humans, and it's about urgent matters, and it should not be engulfed in some complicated language that only a few people understand. The aspect of play, somebody's told me exactly that the trolls in Venice were about play. And I didn't know that there is something called the theory of the decline of play in Western culture, I guess. I don't know about the cultures of the world. I don't know how it is, but apparently, like in many cultures, when people grow up, they kind of have to become serious and grown up and stop playing. But in some societies that have kind of kept up until today the way that they've done things for many thousands of years, like the play actually develops and becomes the work. So you play and you take risks and you make mistakes, fall and do this and all of that things. You learn and then you become more skilled and it actually slowly becomes your work. So I think we are a very versatile creature, and if we give that tool away, we're giving a lot of our powers away. Humor is a very complicated and sophisticated tool to deal with complicated circumstances in the world. And it's also an opener, so it's like I like funny things, and I love it if maybe at least like if you are looking at something and you don't understand what it is, but it makes you laugh or smile, it's like an opener, you know, and it kind of makes it more welcoming. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask a question that is very kind of practical. When you're thinking about those installations where, let's say, you have that ball and then you have this physical element and the little camera, and where, if you would advise us less experienced artists who just start our journey with generative technologies, with technologies at all in our work, where do you start? How do you figure out where to like look for technical solutions? Is it? I know you do work with a team, but I imagine that the basic things you first conceptualize by yourself. How do you do that? Where do you start? Which programs you work with? How do you crack the code?
Just like try them out, you know. If you have a chance to play with those programs, just play with them. And if you have seen something that excites you, you know, whether it's in a book or in a movie or by other artists, or you heard your grandmother say something that interests you, or whatever it is, you know, try to implement it into your art. Like, go by your excitement. But like, it's like play with the tools, you know. I was lucky back in the days, like somebody showed me how to use that, and I learned how to use, you know, Director in the art school in France, and yeah, just like I was trying to show, like the input into the art also comes from outside, you know. Like we didn't, like I'm sitting here speaking a language that I didn't invent. I'm talking about ideas whereof 98% of them I didn't invent. I'm in clothes designed and made by others. And my art is largely based on what has been done by other artists. So when I was starting out, it's very important to be not afraid to be inspired by other people's artists, because you are continuing a conversation that has been kept going by other artists, and you are going to continue that conversation. Like nobody else owns that. You just join it, just join in on it and continue. And then with time, you're going to develop your own style and language. So don't be afraid of copying a little bit, because you're learning. You know, we have to learn from each other. And then, you know, don't be afraid don't think that I can't say anything special. Just look around you and see what you're interested in and talk about that somehow, and see what comes out of it. And it took me somehow years to feel like that, oh yeah, maybe this is like what I do, you know. Because it's not about a single work. It's about the invisible lines between, after you've done a few works, that then something appears. Yeah, just play.
Follow-up question.
Say it again?
Follow-up question.
Yes.
So some of your works, so I feel that something we are struggling with is we have ideas,
yeah,
and then we might feel, oh, it's not enough. Or once you start to work with, you know, an engine where you can create a game, or you're thinking about narrative, you kind of feel like, oh, I need to tell a story. And then we look at your sculpture and there's a stone that is crying, and it's like, you look at that and you're like, oh, that's enough. But it's very, very hard, I feel, for us when we're starting to think like, oh, I'm just going to do, you know, a crying stone, and to actually have that courage to feel like, okay, this is what it's gonna be. I'm not going to, you know, talk over that. I'm not going to kill the fun by doing too much. How do you do that to tell yourself, okay, like in this animation I'm gonna have that, you know, sophisticated narrative with that girl who's walking the city, but here it's just gonna be a stone that is crying. Like how do you allow yourself, how do you know that sometimes enough is enough and you don't have to add more on top of that?
Well, I learned a technique when I was in art school that I still use, which is to sit down and to write every single idea that you have on a piece of paper. So you put one idea on one paper, and then when you've done that, you see like these ideas are better than these ones. So you put these ones aside and you take these ones back, and then you revisit this idea, and then you can like maybe add a page to it, and it like something else adds to it. Like I grow my ideas in this way, like with a sketch, because also the sketch is the sketch and text is like halfway between your idea and a physical thing, and like so sketching is very, very important. And then trying out, like trying out many different things, and don't expect that you see the full picture in the beginning. Like when I was making that chocolate plate with all those things, it's like a super simple piece. I think that for me, it was kind of almost nothing, but like maybe 10 years later when I looked at it, it was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of like a start of something. And it's so difficult to see things when you're going forward, but then later when you look back and you've made a few pieces, you can see these invisible lines between what you've done, and then you might find a core in it. And so you have to play with this stuff, try out stuff. It's like when you go to buy a shirt, you try on 10 shirts, and then you narrow it down to 5, and then you narrow it down to 2, and then you choose one, because you try them on, test it.
Any questions?
You talked about art being able to be understood by different types of people. How do you ensure in your own work that you're achieving that goal and you're communicating to as many people as you can?
I renounce my duty to do that, because I know that I will never be able to do that. That's like if I would start to control other people, I can't do that. I can control what I can do. I can't control how they react to it. But for example, with the humor that I put into my work, with a certain kind of things that I think that many people can connect with, I kind of tend to use that in my work. So yeah, but if you are connecting with what you're doing, it's very likely that someone else is going to connect with it too, because your background is also somebody else's background, and the way that you deal with it might be interesting for other people as well. Like, we don't create everything from the ground, it's like it's standing on a larger legacy, So just make sure that you're doing something interesting for yourself first and foremost. It's like on the airplane, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you help the others. Make sure you're doing your stuff.
I really liked the piece of like the girl who was walking around. What did you use to make that?
It was just filmed with an iPhone because the weather was good, and I just like walked around town and I filmed it, and then we put it into a program that can diagnose the depth, so that it kind of puts a grid, and then you can make the figure walk, and it behaves the same way. You know what I mean? It's really difficult because it's not a standing still footage, so it was quite a lot of meddling around. But it's 3D animation, and I
think more like a practical question of how you made those installations that had projections onto them with different things changing. Like particularly, you had one where there was like boxes and they were opening and there's the banana flag. What is like the practical process of projecting it exactly like 1-to-1, where you line up the boxes so that it is realistic and the projection isn't distorted? Like, how do you do that? Is it like real-time editing or?
It's a little technology. Like actually, like if you have you have an object like this, and you have a projector that is here, and you project onto it, like you have the light kind of going around here. If you could like connect your computer to it, and you would like in Photoshop, and you would start drawing, so you would see the line there, and you would like draw the outline of this object in Photoshop, then you can take that image and draw a window on that cup and make it open in a simple animation, and then when you project it back, it will fit onto it exactly. But there's also a lot of, so I often like climb on a stair and I take a photograph from the lens of the projector. It's kind of like a brickle brackle, But then there's a lot of, you gotta do something like that to get more. So the projector has to be, the image that you project has to be seen from the same point that the projector projects. So I sometimes go and I take a photo, boom, and then I take that photo and I see, okay, so it looks like, because in the photo everything is skewed, And but then there is all kinds of programs where you can adapt it. Like in DaVinci Resolve, there's a thing you can put over the image where you can pull a lot of points until it fits exactly onto it. Yeah.
So you're basically breaking that into two steps. The one where you take a photo is just for you, so you can conceptualize and design things, and then in DaVinci you do all the nitty-gritty technical
final mapping. Yeah, but the super complicated stuff happens inside. The more complicated stuff happens inside. When it's done in Unity, you have to place the camera inside the program more or less on the same spot spatially as you will have the projector, So it's a little bit like figuring it out somehow, little by little. There are quite a few steps.
For anyone who's interested in those kind of things, I'm going to forward you an invitation to a company that offered us a sort of collaboration. They're called Disguise, and they have event end of the month. So I'll tell you more about this, but that might be interesting for you. They do that sort of also live integration of different inputs into projections for, like, I don't know, concerts and other things. So that's coming. That's coming.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I was wondering how you come up with some of the characters that appear in your artwork. Do you kind of have like an idea of their personality first and then figure out the visual aspect afterwards, or maybe the other way around?
Is usually comes from fooling around and being stupid and playing. And so my oldest characters is with my brother from since we are teenagers. I'm 52 and he's 46, and we call us up on the phone, and sometimes we're just those characters. He's the pig and I'm the rat, and then we just talk about what pig and rat are doing, and it's just so much fun. And I think it's like these two grown men kind of keeping that alive is kind of rare to be able to have that playing ground. And then we sometimes meet and we make paintings together and stuff like that. And so, I mean, if you like, for me, so the characters that just come up through playing, seriously, like the two trolls, for example, they just came because I come from Iceland, and trolls are very popular in folk culture, and it's kind of like for an artist to work with trolls is like for an American artist to work with a Statue of Liberty or something. Like, it's the most stupid thing that you can kind of, or like the thing that you should not work with somehow, if that makes sense. And so I started doing stuff with trolls, and I was like, if there was like a gallerist coming to my studio, I would like hide it away because it was the stupid stuff I was doing. But then when I saw the movements of Tove Jansson, and I understood that she's like, that's art, I kind of came out of the closet with my trolls, and I showed them at the Venice Biennial. And my gallerist didn't understand at all what the hell I was doing. But I decided to do it anyway.
Any other questions? Okay, so I have one last question about trolls. So the way I understand trolls, I don't come from a country where we have trolls, but I understand that troll is something that is that we artists struggle with a lot. We all have our trolls in our studio, our virtual studio. The troll who says, that's not gonna work. How do you defeat that troll? How do you
the no troll.
Not listen to the ambition commission type of a troll that says, this idea, don't even try.
Well, I believe that it's the most important art you can do is the stuff that you like, regardless of whether it's gonna be understood or not. And I think it's also like if somebody wants to have a real career as an artist and you really want to bring something new and you have to take that risk. It might not be understood at that time, but it's going to be valuable later. I mean, I think it's just the best bet. Like if you're going to bet on crypto or not, it's just you bet on your own crypto, which are like all the ideas that you think are great, no matter how stupid they look like they are, and really follow up on them, yeah. So, and at least you can write them down on paper, let them live there a little bit, and then you might pick it up another time and grow, or it might fall off your table with time.
Just as like an add-on to that, because I've never thought about it until this context. So in the way that like when you're writing a paper and you're kind of keeping your list of sources as you're like exploring this idea, but not everything's going to make it into the paper or really kind of be in like your final bibliography, you very much do that with how you archive your ideas. Like you'll walk into the studio and there's these kind of folders that'll be on themes like curses that you like, or building styles that he likes, and he's very, he has a habit of like archiving images off of his iPhone, I'd say almost weekly at minimum, and kind of putting them into these groups, so that way, in the same way that if you're really good at documenting your sources before a paper, having all those sources there makes it easier to write the paper. So it's almost like you're kind of doing that constantly.
Yeah, like archiving and keeping ideas together in some sort of a cloud that then grows is really it's part of the sketching.
Organize your pantry, people, your artistic pantry.
We have someone here in the room that is making a program about that.
That's true, actually. That's genius.
You want to tell us a little bit about it?
The basic idea is that your files, your thoughts or ideas are in your computer could be more useful if they were kind of organizing themselves. And so it's a self-organizing visual file system. It's very pretty to look at. But yeah, that's the main.
Yeah. No, but I think it's like. But that's why, like, yeah, if I see something interesting, I use my phone, I take a photo of it. If I have a melody in my head, I record it just on video, and then I try to collect them, because, I learned, for example, one practical thing, that I don't have a book where I have a million ideas, because then they disappear into the book. I try to have it on single pages so that I can separate the pages into those piles. So sometimes I have ideas growing over 2-3 years before I actually start trying to make something physical out of it. And so anything you see that is interesting, if it's just like a shop that you think is interestingly decorated, or you see something at the Metropolitan Museum or MoMA or something, take a photo of it and start collecting things that interconnect, and then they start to have a meaning with time. It takes me sometimes 10 years before I actually start. Like the boombox piece, that is, the first sketches are from 2013, and it kind of looked totally different then. And the same is kind of, I feel like being an artist, you start collecting these ideas, and then after a while it becomes like, I don't know even really where the ideas come. It's like something's like a bag of interest that I can't really see into, and then you pull it out and then you work with it and develop a language. Yeah.
Any last question? Okay, well, thank you so much. Let's stay in a room for another half an hour. If you have some questions you want to ask in a less formal way, we're all here. If you have any questions you want to ask me, I'm here. If you had enough and you can't wait to go, you don't have to stay. Next week we're having another exciting guest. You will, of course, always welcome to hear Olivia talk.
Thank you.
So we will be continuing the conversation. One thing I'll ask you about is if any questions or any problems emerged in the projects you're working on, email me. We can catch up at any point. Remember, we do have also 2 computational fellows who are ready to help you, but you have to also give them heads up because they're also learning the things we're learning. So give them some time to gather information. And we have still some cookies. The little bags on the table are also edible. No coffee today. Tea. Help yourself.